Oh, the glorious feeling of egg on your face. You beautiful Carlton Football Club. You mighty Carlton Football Club. What an idiot. Oh, what an idiot I have been. Wowee. Wasn't that absolutely magnificent? One of the greatest wins I can remember, okay, in the last decade. And haven't they made an absolute fool of me? And I must say, I couldn't be more prouder. There you go, Richie. With the cap on backwards. These glasses are fogged up at the moment. Might give those a little bit clean. I couldn't be more prouder. 30-point win on the road. Yeah, look. Let's put it into just a small piece of context. Okay, what have we beaten in the last 3 weeks? We've beaten the 14th, 15th, and 17th ranked teams in the competition. But it just feels like this one, as I mentioned in my preview, this will be a huge one for our football club. And to do it in the manner in which we did yesterday, I just thought it was just perfect. It was perfect. And the emotion around that game, given the fact that Leon Cameron, every time watching it on the tube, every time, the camera's panned up to the box, the level of anxiety and frustration in the face of Leon Cameron, and they were up for the fight. Not early in that game, they definitely weren't, but the thing I love, this the way it panned out. The way it panned out, this game of football was exactly the type of game which sort of builds belief in this group, and I think that's what it is, building belief. Within our team. I've been slow. I know I've been slow to hop on board, and I've got egg on my face right here, right now, to the peanut. Okay, I forget his name. But on Twitter last night, I mentioned, I've been slow to get on board, but this is something very special about this win. But the peanut, okay, who called me pessimistic, and I am pessimistic, okay? I am pessimistic, but to then, okay, accuse me of wanting the opposition to win. Oh my God, wanting the opposition to win just so I could be proven right. You are an absolute fool. You are an absolute fool. In fact, I do know your name, but I'm not even going to mention it because you're not even worth it, okay, that you're going to be mentioned on this channel. All right, so as if after all this time, okay, a 53-year-old male, after supporting this club all my life, would now want to barrack for the opposition just so I could be proven right? You imbecile. You absolute imbecile. I loved every minute of that win yesterday, so just wipe egg from my face. And I wear this jumper because this is the jumper, okay, that has bullied us, okay, made us look stupid, okay, over the last 5 or 6 years. And to turn the tables on them yesterday, and albeit they are struggling, but they really did press and they really did challenges throughout the game. But the way it panned out, I just knew in this game we'd start really well, but there was something about this start which was a little bit different. It wasn't like we just exploded out of the blocks. I just think it was a really measured and although it was a really dominant sort of first part of that game, it was sort of measured and controlled. And that first contest, probably the least likeliest player on our list to lay a really big bump on Lockie Ash was Plowman, and it just sort of stamped our authority on the game straight away. And then he butter up to about 10 seconds later and took an intercept mark, and we got a goal from that. I just thought that opening quarter, the complete domination, pressure in our forward half, winning clearances, out of the middle, around the ground. The way we were setting up behind the ball was particularly impressive. Our half-back flankers really pressing up and owning that space behind the ball. Just terrific, just terrific. And the way we manufactured our goals in that first quarter was everything that we would have hoped for, given that Harry and Jack Martin weren't playing, and our small forwards, they were electrifying, particularly Corey Durden, or as BT named him, Sam Durden yesterday, the former North Melbourne player who is now playing for us. He was just absolutely brilliant in that first quarter. And our debutant, Motlop, thought he was really good as well. And look, that scoreline of 5-2 to 3-3, 3-2 at quarter time wasn't representative at all, I thought, of our domination in that first quarter. But we could just feel the momentum shifting at the back after that first quarter, and the Giants started to get their hands on the ball. They lifted, and we started to give away a few free kicks, a couple that didn't go our way. Toby Green got involved in the game with an easy one over the back and then a free kick, and suddenly the Giants were back in it, and we knew from there on that it was going to be a bit of an arm wrestle. And I thought we played some really good football in the second quarter with not a lot of reward, and it was almost like the Giants just kept themselves in this contest. And I thought probably they started the game the ascendancy in the middle of the ground, but yeah, I just thought they really started to press us. We started to make some unforced errors, which kept them in the game, and the 7-5 scoreline at half time was probably a little bit flattering to the Giants, to be perfectly honest, because at that stage, although I was a little bit worried, I thought we, for the most part, if you sort of broke down the first two quarters, I think in the large quantities of those first two quarters, we had our fair share of the play. And I think the scoreboard just lied a little bit, and I thought our third quarter was absolutely superb. We probably didn't get the reward on the scoreboard, and it was pretty close at 3/4 time. But for the first time, I think I was very, very confident, given what we'd done in those first three quarters, that we'd get the job done, and to run away with that win, the way we did, the way our leaders, particularly our leaders, and I spoke about this in the preview. I spoke about Cripps, I spoke about Walsh, I spoke about Wiedering, I spoke about Doherty, and those leaders, particularly those the likes of Newman and Sard. And without Williams being there, I just thought they really, really controlled that and brought that win home for us. And it's just it is a different feel now. It is a different look. The way we're going about it, and it's all about belief and trust. And you look at that. You look at the fact that we haven't really. I think we've only beaten one team inside the top 8 at the moment, and that's Richmond, who are sitting 8th. But there is something significantly different about this group, and their attitude and the way they're playing for one another. And I just thought it was such a watershed moment. And we've got plenty of work to still do moving forward. And losing Williams, it just shows you the flexibility of this football team as well, to be able to put Nunes back and then bring Cottrell on to play that wing role. I thought we didn't lose a hell of a lot with that, other than a little bit of run and carry from Williams, who can lock down as well. But I just think Nunes still played a really important role, and I thought Cottrell, for the most part, his running capacity and ability, we know what he's able to do in regards to his work rate. As much as it was disappointing to lose Zach Williams, and that that may hurt us moving forward. I think on the day, we won just about everything, in that regards. And I look at the stats I liked in this game, with a 12-5 inside 50 marks. we spoke about how we would structure that up, and I think Charlie's game. I mean, he didn't have a lot of the ball, but it was so selfless, and to see him hit the scoreboard in the last quarter, and that's what really good players do. They just keep presenting and presenting and that's what Charlie did. He opened up that space for our small forwards to get to work. I thought he was really good, but to get 12 marks inside 50 without Harry, and our ability to lower the eyes and find the loose was really impressive. And I just think when you look at and we're pretty much noted now, I think, as a really hard inside contested type team with our midfield. And I think this game showed that we got the balance really right. And we know that the Giants are a really good contested football team, but you look at those stats, 34 more contested possessions in our favour, and then the really good one, as far as I can see, is something that we haven't necessarily been good at, is the uncontested possessions, and to have 48 more, was particularly impressive. But the hit outs. I mean, I know Bruce was dominant with his marking around the ground and his strength, and we got absolutely butchered and murdered in the hit outs, 15-44. But the thing that impressed me was our stoppage work around the ground, and we won that battle 25-13, but we were beaten out of the middle 11-15. And before the game, we would have said, if we get beaten out of the centre, we're not winning this football game. We need to be giving our forwards every opportunity. But we got beaten out of the centre, and a lot of our goals come from. A lot of it came from transition, really good transition play from our back half. And this is a significant difference to what we were doing at the start of the year. We were really relying on getting that ball out of the centre square and inside our forward 50 really quickly. But we're now starting to score from our back half, which is something I can't recall us doing a lot of in recent history. So that, for me, was particularly impressive. And we never surrendered the lead, not for 1 minute. And I know it was equal at half time. We just always seemed to have, it was close, but we always seemed to have control of this game. And the final stat, we've used 36 players so far this season. Only the West Coast Eagles have used more players than us. That is staggering. That is absolutely staggering to think that we've used that many players and we're sitting fourth on the ladder, and our percentage is building. And to go over there, losing Harry, losing Young, losing Martin, no Pitnet, it's a big win. It's a really big win, and to keep the likes of Toby Green relatively quiet, a guy that can really ignite his football team as a player we identified before the game. Absolutely outstanding. Absolutely. I would hope this for us is something we can look back on and go, this was possibly the turning point for us. I know it is for me in regards to believing in this team. Let me run through the players. Jack Silvani, absolutely outstanding. I was a knocker, there's no doubt. I'll put my hand up, egg on the face. I was a knocker of Jack Silvani, but I've been, since last year, the last 12 months, I've really warmed to him. He's hitting the scoreboard. He's clever. He's courageous. He works hard. Just a super game yesterday. I thought he was probably in the best three on the ground with his 20 touches. Just some of the work he did was absolutely brilliant. Love the debut of Motlop. You can see he's going to be a player. He may only play 1 or 2 games. He might go back to the VFL, but you can just see. You can see his enthusiasm. He's fast. He's tough. He's clever. It wasn't a mind-blowing performance, but he just played a role in the front half. I thought he was really good. And O'Brien, I know he makes mistakes, and I know he probably, not every player is going to hit the contest 100 miles an hour. There's just something about the way Lockie O'Brien's building with this team. And what he does really well is really wrapped. He kicked that goal in the third quarter. It was a ripper. That's what he's capable of doing. 670 metres gained from his 22 chances. Once again, 20 kicks. That's his strength. We know that. He's getting into the right spots. And other than probably round one, against Richmond, I think, where he may have lowered his colours to pick it. I reckon he's pretty much held his own against most opponents this year, and I thought he had the best of that wing. Chera, serviceable game. Didn't always use it that well, but it was just a really solid performance. And the good thing about the midfield, we didn't dominate the midfield. We didn't dominate it. We had other, areas of the ground which really stood up. Our back half I thought was exceptional for most of the game, and it wasn't all up to the midfield. It's always this notion that we're a midfield-based team. And Chera was good, but he wasn't like outstanding. But he was good, and he played his role. I'll skip Williams, just disappointing for him. Matthew Kennedy, the same, just really solid. A couple of really ordinary kicks in that last quarter. A couple of times he went to Cripps. Probably heavy legs, but, just his marking ability, his strength at the contest. He got crunched in that last quarter, got up and battled on. Thought Cripps was amazing, to be perfectly honest, to battle it out in the ruck. He had Green on his tail for most of the game. That was a great battle. He was, it was the leaders' game. I spoke about that leadership before. This was the leadership game that we needed from Patrick Cripps in that last quarter. His clearance work out of the middle, he got a number of clearances, and he just lifted. He lifted, and he just was a steady influence on this group in that last quarter. That, for me, was the most impressive thing from him. De Koning, well beaten. Just well beaten. He wasn't, I wouldn't say he was disgraced, but just well beaten. He had a dip. He took a nice mark, kicked a goal. He got involved, but, Bruce really did get a handle of him. And time will only tell. He was serviceable last week against the Crows. Thought he was okay, and he was okay against North Melbourne. But it's going to probably get a little bit more difficult as this little block of games goes on. He had his hand full against a really big and strong opponent. I don't think it's a huge concern at the moment, but projecting forward, it's going to be an interesting one, particularly with Pitnet still a fair way off. Doherty, superb. Made a really bad error, which coughed up a goal in that first quarter. But apart from that, just thought he was superb, having a stellar season. It's just amazing to consider what he's doing. And that goal, at the time, our house, I'll tell you what. Only if that idiot who said that I was actually barracking for the Giants just because I picked them to win and I was actually barracking for them just so I could be proven right. If only he was actually in my lounge room at the time when Doc kicked that goal. You goose. Anyway, Doc was just superb. Jack Carroll, a little bit quiet. Did some nice things. There was one time there where he flew for a mark on the outer side. It was sort of reminiscent a little bit of Andrew Walker. For some reason, he just really flew and got a bit of a ride. He's got that sort of Andrew Walker look about him when Walker used to turn onto that left foot a fair bit. I've got a feeling he's going to be due for a spell. I've mentioned this over the last couple of weeks. That he's had two really good games. This one was a little bit quieter, so it'd be interesting to see what they have planned for him. Given that it's a pretty short break coming up to a Friday night against the Swans, who are pretty, they are really, really strong around the ball. Does he need an opportunity now? He's had his 3 games to go back. He was relatively quiet. He did a few good things, but possibly not enough. Kemp was really impressive, I thought. Your opponent, Riccardi's got hold of us before. That Jake Riccardi seems to play pretty well against us. I remember a game at, might have been when we were in the hub up there at Metricon Stadium, when we were favourites to win that game under David Teague, and they were really struggling, and they beat us that night. and he played a really good game. He's a former, he came through the VFL at Werribee. He didn't set the world on fire, but I thought Kemp really hit back and became a really nice contributor, nice and steady. There's been a bit of a knock on his ball use, but when he sort of keeps it simple, and he showed a little bit too, showed a little bit of aggression and some strength, and I think, 14 touches in the back half, a couple of nice intercept grabs. Does he hold his spot with Lewis Young coming back in? I'd probably think not, but it's good to see that he can come in and play that role for us. Sam Walsh, I thought it was his best game since returning. He's still not at his peak, his absolute peak, but to kick 2 goals, that was going to be important in this game to hit the scoreboard for him. He hasn't done it so far this season. He worked really hard, as he always does. I thought his ball use was a lot better than it has been, and I think I only saw him get run down once, whereas in other games he's been a little bit slow, just a little bit slow on the move. So I thought it was a really good game. He's one of the best players on the ground. I mean, I mentioned Durden before. He's the type of player, if I'm an opposition supporter and I'm looking, you're watching a game on a Sunday and you're watching a team, not your team, and you see someone like Durden, you see his size, you see his speed, he's popping up in defence, he's popping up through the midfield, but he's a small forward. He's absolutely everywhere. He's had 19 touches. He's relatively strong overhead and he can sniff out a goal and he tackles hard. They're the sort of guys that you go, wow. And you think he's only a second-year player. You go, wow, they've got one there. And once again, I put my hand up. I wanted Jimmy Rowe, but and he's miles in front. He's absolutely miles in front. And this is a great pick. This is a great pick by Nick Austin, Corey Durden. He is, I don't know the superstar word for a small forward. I don't think he's got superstar in him. But for what he does and what he brings, you can see the energy he brings. And you can see that he wants it. You can see that he's one of those players who's got a good attitude, and he can play. We're very, very lucky to have him. And just think that he's only a second-year player. He's just going to get a lot better. Lockie Plowman, I mean, what do you say? I mean, I mentioned before those 2 whacks he did early in the game, and then I can't remember him making a mistake. He had green at times, but not always. He was just super solid, super solid. Maybe we're not relying on him. Maybe we're taking him away from being that last defender as well, and we are protecting him a little bit within the system because we are playing now to his strengths. I don't know. I'll have to go watch him live, really live. I haven't had an opportunity to watch him. I mean, he missed last week, but he looks... I mean, a lot of them do. They look different players. They look a lot more confident and a lot more assured in what they do. I cannot remember Lockie Plowman making a mistake yesterday. He probably did. I think he was really good. Wiedering, best game for the year. He was just a rock. I mean, he had Himmelberg. Sometimes he had Riccardi. They're not huge, big matchups for him. He controlled the air. He controlled the back half. He was aggressive. He was aggressive with his body language and his other defenders. You could see that on the TV. And I thought he really stepped up. And I've been a little bit critical of him in that regard, just to give us a little bit more leadership down there. And to have Brody Kemp by his side, I just thought he was outstanding yesterday, Jacob Wiedering. Nick Newman the same. I think he's having a really good year. And that's, I think, the biggest improvement for me, and with what I can see, is the back half. I think that's been the biggest growth across the first 8 weeks, if you really sort of break it down. I know the opposition is still scoring, but I just look, and then we're going to be challenged. We're going to be probably challenged by better systems than what Adelaide, North Melbourne and the Giants at the moment are probably dishing up. And you looked at the forward line other than Green. Was it really that dangerous? But I don't know, just the way they're working together at the moment, the synergy with that back half and all of them playing a role there, I'll just feel it at the moment. Fisher good again, classy, couple of really nice finishes. He got that one right on the siren. in the last quarter. He's just playing his role. Another 18 disposals. Hewitt the same. Just really honest workmanlike performance with 30 touches. Another player we're just really lucky to have. I was sort of watching that game to think he would have played a lot of those Sydney GWS sort of what do they call them over there? Sort of Battle of the Bridge or whatever it's called, and they're really heated. So he knows that midfield. It was good to have him in there in that mix, because we have been beaten up by that Giants midfield in the past. So he knows what they're like. He probably knows a little bit about them because of that rivalry between those two clubs. And I just thought he was just steady as a ship again yesterday. Charlie Curnow, I mentioned it before, just worked his arsehole off. To see him rewarded with a great mark in that last quarter and then, get another goal, and the excitement he showed when Doc kicked that goal. And I mentioned it on Twitter last night, that whole sort of Doc goal and then the reaction from his teammates just brought a tear to the eye. It really did. It was a really emotional moment. And it means a lot. I think this game meant a lot to this group. It really did. It certainly meant a lot to us fans, or me in particular, because I've still had my doubts. Jack Nunes said that, very flexible player at the moment. What's the longevity of Jack Nunes in his football team? Makes some mistakes here and there, but bloody hell, he's playing a role, whether it's on a wing or down back. He can play a number of different roles, so you need those role players, and he's providing that at the moment, and you can't drop him on his form at the moment. Thought Saad was good, but not as... He just fitted into the system. I felt he got himself into a little bit of trouble in this game, whether he took one bounce too many, got too close to the man on the mark, but it was another really good performance by Saad, but probably not as effective as he's been in other games, and he probably didn't need to be. Owies, I thought, really hit up at the football well and probably should have kicked two, but ended up with only 15. He ended up with 15 touches, took 7 marks in the end, which was only 2 marks in the end, but should have kicked 2 goals at least. And this is an area of a game where he was really good when he first started, but it's appeared to have just dropped off a little bit, hitting the scoreboard. No, were 2 really gettable goals. And those 2 opportunities in the third quarter, that would have iced this game. That would have really, would have, I think, put the Giants to bed at that stage. We were really playing some really good football in that third quarter. And finally, Cottrell. He's another one who's copped some criticism. And I think at the moment, he's the perfect sub because he can play a number of different roles for the team particularly. And you always know he's going to finish games off as well. I think that's about it, really. I'm pretty excited Blue Barrack at the moment. And I must say that egg's dried up on my face at the moment. I'm going to have to go have a shower and get this Giants top off. Please leave any comments down below. What did you like about the performance? How do you see us faring against the Swans? Although I will do a preview later on in the week for that big game on Friday night at Marvel Stadium. What did you like? What didn't you like? Did I get it right in regards to the players? Who comes out maybe? Who do you think's not safe? And who may come in for Williams? That's an interesting one, given now that he's going to miss a significant amount of games, and we're still waiting for an assessment on that Achilles injury. Catch you soon.